Yo guys, what's going on? Robert Warshack here, and I'm going to be doing a tier review of all of the legendaries from Murder at Castle Nathria. Finally, they're all announced. We have all of the cards here, and we can take a look at all of the legendaries and see, well, guess which ones are going to be the dumpster fires and which ones are going to be the really, really good ones. So first thing going to be the Sin Strider. So this one's actually a pretty hard pick. There's people already doing like combos with this guy with really broken stuff. So 100% I think he's going to get nerfed sometime in the future because it's just going to do some stupid stuff. So I'm already going to put the first card we're looking at Skeet Skeet Bang Bang. So we should probably review what we have here on the left hand side in regards to how I rate cards. Starting from the top, we've got Skeet Skeet Bang Bang, which is going to be your tier S, your tier 1s, very, very good. Right below that, we have tier 2/tier 1. This is just your good decks, your solid decks, not nerf stuff, not absolutely broken meta-defining things. Then we have playable, which is your gen eds. This is basically a little too high than normally the decks that I play, but still, you know, your high, maybe your low tier 2s, your high tier 3s, somewhere in there. Then we have a bad 95% of the time. This is where I fall most of the time. This is basically the card's really bad, but still you can play it and it sometimes does things. And then we have at the absolute bottom here, we have the trash can / the dumpster fire. These are just really bad. Like, you don't even want to build a meme deck around them because they're so bad. So hopefully we don't get down there. So the Mage Legendary is interesting because it revolves around, where's the Mage cards? It revolves around these volatile skeletons, which are basically 2-mana 2/2s, deal 2 damage to a random enemy, which could go face, it could hit minions. So the entire Mage, most of it anyway, is comprised of these volatile skeletons. So depending on how good volatile skeletons are, is how good Kalthaz is going to be. So I think it's actually gonna be pretty good. There's a lot of freeze, there's a lot of value, and they do a lot of damage. Will it be tier 1? I don't know, because we already have Pig Mage. Pig Mage is super reliable, and we have Mordreth, and Mordreth automatically does 10 damage. So in order to play the Kalthad, you actually have to have at least 5 skeletons that would to have died that game, and then it's a battle cry, so it brings them out, and it still can be mass polymorph. There's things that can be done, even freezing it back, that would make it so you don't take the damage, while Mordreth is an immediate 10 damage impact and clears the board. So I think this is like a playable card, but I don't think this is going to be bad 90%, but I don't think it's going to be tier 1 and tier 2. So I think this is actually going to fall under here, and I think this is going to be where it is. We have the Theo Mad Duke. All right, this guy is also pretty interesting because it battle cry, discover a card in each player's hand, and then you swap them, right? So really good in control decks, really good combo stoppers. I think this is actually going to be found in some tier 1, tier 2 decks because it's going to be a OTK / combo stopper. So if there is a like control warrior or control warlock, control shaman, it's going to play this card because if it ever queues into another deck that does have some sort of combo, looking at like Quest Priest and things like that, you just play this and you just shut down their win con. So like, just first example, you're playing Control Warrior, you're queuing to Quest Priest, most of the time you just lose. Like, there's no win there. But if you play the Mad Duke, when they complete their quests, you can steal it, and then you can do some pretty unique things. So I think the Mad Duke is actually pretty good. Ooh, this Druid Legendary is interesting. So the Druid Legendary is an 8-mana 8/8 taunt death rattle, draw a minion, reduce its cost by 8. So very powerful death rattle card here. Big Druid has always been kind of a meme. I mean, there is big Druid like Celestial Druid, which runs big cards, but it's not, the point of the deck isn't to play huge death rattle minions or just big minions in general. It's to combo off doing Celestial with Lady Anachondria. And then if you happen to live, it also has Kaz to follow up. There's multiple win conditions, and it's not just revolving around playing big minions or big death rattle minions. So this card, I don't think it's going to be bad 90% of the time, nor do I think it's going to be tier 1 or tier 2. But I think the Skeet Skeet Bang Bang, I think this the Sin Strider with the Druid cards, it's going to be where this guy sees play, because you're going to be able to ramp this guy out quickly and then play like this guy and then a small minion and then pump this bad boy out or something. It's just going to be, it's all about cheating mana, getting as most mana on the board as fast as possible. That's what makes the good decks good, right? And this 8-mana 8/8 cheats cards out, and it has taunt. But is it going to be great? And I don't think so. I think it's going to be playable. I don't think it's going to be great. I don't think it's going to be bad 90% of the time. Ooh, we've got this rogue lesson legendary, which I think is going to be bad 90% of the time, or 95% of the time. First things first, there's not enough rogue secrets. We got introduced to like what, 2 or 3 rogue secrets, and I don't think they themselves are enough to push the entire rogue archetype right now. So let's just take a look at rogue and what they have to offer, right? So we have kidnap, which is a secret. After your opponent plays a minion, stuff it into a 0/4 sack. J. Alexander absolutely shitted on that card. And then we have Sticky Situation, which is after your opponent casts a spell, summon a 3/4 spider with stealth, which is basically just, what is that, like Cat in the Hat, the old hat trick card. And then, like, that's it. We have those 2 secrets, and then we've got, like, secret support cards, right? Like, Private Eye, Battle Cry, cast a secret combo from your deck, combo, cast 2 instead. So, like, you're going to know exactly which rogue secrets these are, which takes away from the entirety of what a secret is supposed to be. You're not supposed to know what the secret is because it's fucking secret. So when you know exactly which 2 secrets you're going to get, unless you like randomly discover some, but then you're still like, that's not an immediately in the rogue secret package. Like, you don't need this guy. Death Rattle, if you control a secret, store his soul inside of it and it resummons when he gets triggered. It has no immediate board impact. However, it's statted very competitively and does have a lot of value, but he's not good enough, in my opinion, for 2 secrets right now. I think if rogue had 4, then we're talking. But right now, at 2, he's going to be bad 95% of the time. He's not a complete dumpster fire because he's a 4 mana 5/4. Stat wise, he's playable. And he has some upside. He's not completely trash, but he's pretty freaking bad without having more secret support right now. All right, so we have Steward, the Steward. This guy is a 3 mana 3/3 Death Rattle. Give the next Silverhand recruit you summon +3/+3 and this Death Rattle. So this is one of those cards where if you draw this card early on, this card is absolutely insane. However, if you do not draw this card early on, he doesn't like the value that he provides later in the game is lesser because of the amount of mana that everybody has. So in the early game, if you hero power and you're summoning like a 4/4 for free, and you're not using any cards and your opponent has to use a card or 2 to kill it, like you're just getting early game value. Every turn you're clicking the button, you're getting a 2 mana 4/4. It's so good, right? But if you draw this guy like at turn 8 or turn 9, like he doesn't, summoning a 2 mana 4/4 at that point in the game, yeah, it's good, but it's not how you're gonna like win. So while I think this guy is very good and he probably will be played in Dude Paladin, I don't think he's going to be super impactful just because he's so draw dependent. And he's also weak to silence. So I think he will be playable, but I don't think he's going to be skeet skeet bang bang. And I don't think he's going to be tier 1, tier 2. I think he's going to fall in that tier 3. Maybe he makes his way like somewhere in between here. Like maybe somewhere in between. But like, just so I'm like, you know, we're going to place it. He's going to go under playable, but he's not going to be like insanely like super powerful. All right, so we have the Necrolord Dracula. So we're going to look at this guy real quick just because I can't read his text. There's too much of it and it's too small. Sorry for the thing being so small, but like that's just the way it's got to be. You know what I'm saying? 4 mana 3/4 Battle Cry, equip a 1/3 dagger, +1 attack for each other card you play this turn. I think this card's actually going to be really good. So we're just going to scoot this card right up here. Rogues play a lot of cards. They play them for very cheap mana. They have Shadow Step, they have Prep, they have Backstab, they have so many very cheap spells and ways to cheat spells out even cheaper. And then they also have this guy now, which is going to be able to the deck already does these things, right? So you're just adding a card that works well with what rogue decks already do, which is play a lot of cheap cards in a turn. And then they normally draw a bunch, but rogue is having some issues drawing right now. But still, rogues like pop-offs. If this was a 1/2 dagger that he provided, probably wouldn't be as good. But because it's a 1/3, even if you play 2 cards, it's a 3/3 dagger. That's 9 damage if you just play 2 cards in front of this guy, which is not hard. You go prep, 2-drop this guy, you have a 3/3 dagger, you're pushing 3 every turn for the next 3 turns. That's just good. So I think this guy's easily going to make its way into rogue, and he's going to be pretty good in rogue. Again, I don't think he's going to be like, I don't see that card being nerfed like right off the bat. There's certain cards you're just like, yeah, that's going to get nerfed. That he doesn't strike me as like going to get nerfed with the current card pool. But like Sin Strider, that card's going to get nerfed sometime in the future. Anything that costs like that he is an outlier super, you know what I'm saying? Like that is a game changing card. The next Paladin card is going to be the Countess. 7 mana, 7/7 battle cry. If your deck has no neutrals cards in it, add 3 legendary invitations to your hand. And then the invitations are 3 mana spells. Discover a legendary minion from another class. It costs 0. This just seems like a rogue or a priest thing. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't even understand why this is a Paladin card. I understand if it has no neutral cards because pure Paladin is a thing, but I don't understand why this is Paladin. Like, why are we still pushing pure Paladin decks? And why are they discovering legendaries from other classes? And why is it not a rogue or a priest thing? Based off of just the fact I hate Paladin, and the fact that this doesn't match the flavor of the class whatsoever, we're just going to put that into trash can / dumpster fire. I'm just kidding. Now, this card is probably going to be pretty playable, if not really good. The only problem is it is a 7 mana 7/7. It doesn't do anything when it comes out, and that was kind of the same as the other pure Paladin card, which was a 7 mana 7/7. It was like 5 Paladin cards to your hand, and that card was actually found in a tier 1 deck. So I would have to say this card is just as good as that card, if not maybe a little bit better, because you get to discover the legendary and it costs 0. Because it costs 0, it can then be synergized with other cards like Brand and Zola and other like things that allow it to be good. Granted, I just listed 2 neutral cards and you have to have a pure deck for this card. So again, that probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but still, you get my point. 0 mana legendary cards that you can pick from, probably pretty good. We've seen a card like this in the past. It was pretty good. So I'm going to rate that card pretty good. Taking a look at Hunter next. Araloin. It's a 5 mana 4/5 battle cry. Summon 1 of each dormant wild seed. And we know the wild seed is a fox spirit, it's a wild steed spirit, or it's a bear spirit. And the stag gives you a 4/2 great board. It takes 3 turns to, it's dormant for 3 turns. The bear has taunts 2/5. It's dormant for 2 turns. And then the fox is a 3/1 rush, and it's dormant for 1 turn. I think that Hunter deck is going to be pretty good. This guy is a lot of value, and you're summoning 1 of each. And there's a lot of supporting cards for this that they're printing, which is like Wild Spirits, which is pretty sick. You've got Stag Charge, Poacher, and you have him. The Wild Steed, whether it's going to be like a mid-range Beast Hunter or some form of aggressive hunter, I think there's a lot of potential here just because of how powerful the Steed cards are, because they do something, and the card that comes out of it does something. So I think it's actually going to be pretty good, and I think it's going to be playable. I think quests being in the game are still an issue because I just look at like Stag Charge, and I just see this going into Quest Hunter. Like, it's a 3 mana, deal 3 to whatever you want. And then you also get a dormant thing that can give you a weapon that does things. And it just seems good, right? So I think as long as the quests are around, it's going to still affect some of these newer cards for the most part, because you do have that inevitable factor with some of these, whether it's Quest Hunter or Quest Warlock or Quest Mage or whatever, Quest Warrior. So these cards do need to keep those particular cards in mind. The other Hunter card is going to be the Huntsman. He's a 7 mana 5/4 battle cry. Summon a companion, infuse 4, summon another companion, infuse 8, summon another. So this card I think is bad 95% of the time. I think that card is actually quite trash. He might even, I'm even almost thinking about the dumpster fire. And the reason being, this card needs to be in your hand. I'm just gonna, you know what? We're just gonna move this guy to dumpster fire. That guy is just really bad. You need so many things to make this card work. You have to basically build a deck around this card. And he's a legendary, which means you can only play 1 of them. And we know how good the Wild Companion card in the past was, because there was like an 8 or 9 mana spell that summoned all the companions, Hoffer, Leok, and Misha. And it got nerfed from 8 to 9. But while you can get this guy down on 7, which is like 2 turns faster, you need to infuse 8. And right now, Hunter isn't like a token hunter class. Like, granted, this guy has to sit in your hand, then 8 things have to die. Hunters don't do that. Hunters play cards and they do things right now. Quest Hunter does things every single turn, does damage, draws cards, completes quests. Face Hunter, Big Beast Hunter, playing Mama Bears and Colossals on turn 4 or 5. Bro, there ain't no time for Huntsman. Like, that card is a dumpster fire. All right. Vashish. This card is going to be tier 1, tier 2 for sure. I don't know if she's skeet bang bang, just because there isn't a ton of evolve for Shaman yet. But if this card sticks on the board for a couple turns or it curves with the muck pools, like it's gonna be so much tempo, right? Because this is a 4-mana 3/6. If this would transform into a minion, you just summon the minion instead. So she just stays, like, you evolve her, she doesn't turn into a 5-drop, but you still get a 5-drop. So you're spending very little mana to create minions from her. So she needs to be dealt with, right? And if she's not, it's a lot of value for very, very cheap. So I think she's a very good card if she sticks around. I don't think there's enough evolved support that I would put her into Skeet Skeet Bang Bang, but I do think there is enough support she will see play, and if she lives, you kind of just win. I think that's a fair assessment right there. All right, taking a look at the other Shaman card, I think this card is, again, a trash can / dumpster fire. So we actually have 2 dumpster fires. The Stone Right, the 4-mana 5/4 battle cry. For the rest of your game, your totems have +2 attack. Be like, oh, it's a battle cry. You can use this with Bran, or you can use it with the bird. Bruh, there isn't enough, like, do we even have enough? Like, you just have like some totem cards. Like, I think they printed 1 totem card, and right now there isn't even a totem shaman. Like, yeah, there's this party favorite. It's a 3-mana 0/3. Fucking, this card is so bad. At the end of your turn, summon a random basic totem, infuse 2, summon 2 instead. Okay, so you have a 0/3 that summons 2 totems, and the totems are 2/2. So you spent 3 mana to summon a 4/4. This needed to infuse, and you needed to play a card before it. You needed to play 2 cards, and you've managed to summon a 4/4 in stats. Good fucking job. That card is a dumpster fire, and it's trash. However, in Wild, there is probably enough support for totems that you could make a viable totem deck. But in the real world, where players play Standard and not Wild, the card is just terrible. However, in Wild, Totem Shaman is probably pretty fun. Don't get me wrong. Totem Shaman is probably a good time in Wild, when there's more totem cards. But in Standard, there's not a lot of totem cards, so it's just not gonna happen. All right. So let's move on to Warlock, shall we? So Warlock got Lady Darkvein. She is a 5-mana 3/6 battle cry, summon 2/2/1 shades. Each gains a death rattle to cast your last shadow spell. That just seems really, really, really good to me. So for 5 stats, you are getting 7/8. She's a 5-mana 7/8, and the death rattles of the things are cast your last shadow spell. And for the most part, shadow spells that you cast are probably pretty good. Most of the time, Warlock, especially like a control Warlock card like this, your board isn't filled with minions. Your opponent's going to have a good board, right? So if you're casting shadow spells like Drain Soul or Drag Below or Twisting Nether, like, I just feel this is a very, very solid card. Like, this seems really, really good. Again, I don't think it's Skeet Skeet Bang Bang, but I do believe it's tier 1, tier 2, and we could see some combo cards coming out of the Lady as well. Because you're able to play the shadow spells, you play a bunch of them, you play this card, which can be reduced by the rod, and then you get 2 more goes at those shadow spells. Whether they could be Curse of Agony as well. You also could Zola the Shades to get them that way as well. You could use this card with Baron to get twice the effect of the shadow spells as well. There's just a lot of things you can do with Lady. Whether or not they're going to be good or bad is beside the point. There's a lot of memes to be done, and just right off the bat, stat-wise, it's good, and ability, it's good. So I'm probably thinking too far ahead on her, but I think she's a really great card, and she's going to do really well. All right, moving to Rafam, the other Warlock legendary here. It's a 6-mana 6/6. Battle Cry, resurrect 4 friendly imps, and then infuse 5, give your imps +2/+2. So there's a lot of different kinds of imps. They're pushing the imp package very, very, very hard this expansion with Warlock. We have Mischievous Imp, we've got Vile Library, we've got the impending Catastrophe, we've got Flustered Librarian. There's a lot of imp things happening here. So Blizzard, they're forcing the imps. It's probably playable. Don't get me wrong. It is probably a playable deck. I do not think it's going to be a tier 1, tier 2. I don't think it's going to be Skeet Skeet Bang Bang. And I don't think it's bad 90% of the time. I think it's going to be a playable thing. As of now, if there's more support for it, it could be good. But I don't think Zoo Imp Warlock is... could it be, though? I mean, it has this card. I think this card single-handedly, this 2-mana draw a card, repeat for each imp you're controlled, this single-handedly, this one card could hold up this entire archetype. Because it's a shadow card. It works with the Lady. You have basically infinite draw. And if you just keep swarming with imps, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't want to put both Warlocks to both tier 1, tier 2. but like just off sheer draw, like I can see it. Draw is such an important mechanic, and classes that have a lot of draw tend to do very well. And the imps in themselves aren't terrible. And he's a 6 mana 6/6. Fill your board up. And if they don't deal with it, they probably lose. So I'm actually gonna put him tier 2. I think I know he's probably playable, but I think because sheerly off draw, it's gonna push the envelope on that guy. So we have Murloc Holmes. I think this is actually going to be a playable / tier 1, tier 2. I wish, again, I could put it in between because he's going to give a lot of value. I think he's going to go more into the playable zone. Murloc Holmes is 3 mana, 3/4 battle cry. Solve 3 clues about your opponent's cards, and then you get copies of them. So it's going to bring up a card that started in your opponent's hand, a card that's currently in your opponent's hand, and then a card that's in your opponent's deck. And for each one that you solve, you have the possibility of getting 3 cards. And you get the information of what's going on in your opponent's deck, which is also pretty useful. It seems like a really good value tool in control decks, and it seems like a pretty fun card. I see it being playable. Moving to Warrior, we have the Decimator. She's a 6 mana 3/7 battle cry, gain +1/+1 for each damaged enemy minions, and then you attack all enemies. So this hits face, and it hits the enemy minions, and it costs 6 mana. There is no way that this card is not tier 1, tier 2. If there any warrior deck will play this card besides Pyro Warrior. The card itself, tier 1, tier 2. I don't know if there'll be a tier 1 or tier 2 warrior deck, but that card, if there is, will be played. That is a good card, very good card. So moving to the Living Blade. So this is like the first time they've combined like a minion with a weapon. They did it in Demon Hunter, where the Demon Hunter card fell Executioner, which it corrupted into a weapon, but this actually is like a minion on board, then turns into a weapon, then back into a minion. It's a 7 mana 4/10 rush. After it attacks, equip it. Its health is shared with its durability, so if you attack this into like a 7 attack minion, it then turns into a 4/3 weapon. You swing with the 4/3 weapon, it turns into a 4/2 minion, and then you can attack again. I think this card is good. I don't see why you wouldn't play this in any sort of control warrior. If it has no threats, you're dealing 8 damage at least a turn. And on top of that, it can attack basically 3 times per turn because you play it. It has rush, you swing. It turns into a weapon, you swing. It turns back into a minion, you swing. And then it turns back into a weapon, which you've already attacked previously with it. So then you don't get to swing again. So this card seems good. A lot of people were saying it's too slow. It's not good enough. I think the sheer fact that you're able to swing so many times with it, like it clears stuff or it does damage. Warrior wants to do, but it has the option to do either. And Warrior, they love control, they love making value trades, and they love chipping in damage when they can. So you kill minions with this if you can, you chip in damage with this when you can. It costs a little bit of mana, but sure, paying mana for good cards. I've never shied away from paying mana for good cards. So we're gonna put this into playable. I don't think it's as good as the Decimator, but I do think it's very playable. I think it is very playable. Keep in mind this card also works with hand buffs. So because I just said that, and because I just remembered that it works with hand buffs, I'm actually going to move this to tier 1, tier 2. I think that card is pretty damn good. I think that card is pretty darn good. Moving to the Demon Hunter. We have this guy, this Scuttlebug. 4 mana 7/7 battle cry, discard your hand, death rattle, draw 3 cards. I think that card is going to be bad 95% of the time. I think the only time this card will be good is if you evolve a 3-drop into him, or you're playing like a super aggro Demon Hunter. Actually, I think I'm going to move him to playable. And the reason now I'm thinking about this is Death Rattle Demon Hunter has a card that summons a 4-drop from your hand for free. I think that single-handedly will make this card playable, because if this is in your hand and you play that card and it summons this 4-drop, that's insane. You draw 3 cards and you've summoned a 4 mana 7/7. Also, granted, if you evolve him into this card, I think he's good. But play-wise, super aggro Demon Hunter and then Death Rattle Demon Hunter, and there's cards that literally summon this guy for free. Yeah, if you summon this guy for free, he's good. How much other Death Rattle Demon Hunter support is it? Actually, what about the Relics? There's probably what about a Relic Death Rattle Demon Hunter? That's probably gonna do pretty. You know what? Because the Relics aren't that, like, the Death Rattle Demon Hunter already had some, like, you run the Death Rattle stuff and then you weren't really sure what the other third of the deck is. It could just be Relics. So yeah, I'm thinking about, I think that guy is definitely playable, and I think he's pretty good. again, and he can be hexed, he can be silenced. There's things that you can do to this guy to make him less good, but like generally just a form, just the fact that you get him out for free. I think that's the main purpose. Is there's literally a 3-mana 3/3 that'll summon this guy for free. So I think because of that, he's playable. If that card didn't exist, he's not playable. All right, the Artificer, Battlecry Discovering, cast a Relic, infuse 5, cast all 3 instead. I think this card is pretty nuts. I think the Relics look a lot better than what I originally thought they were, just based off of the fact that they keep upgrading. And there is a lot of Relic cards that do Relic things, especially the Relic Vault. So you have like the Relic Vault, you have him, and then you have the relics themselves, right? And you can run 2 of each copies. So you have 2, 4, 6, and then you have 7, 8, 9, 10, and then you have him, which then can also upgrade up to 3. So that's a lot of relic upgrades. So you're gonna be summoning like, I mean, just if this thing summons like 5 5s and 6 6 and 7, it's just a lot of stats for very cheap, and it picks up pretty quickly. As soon as you're summoning like for 3 mana 2 3/3s, that's pretty already good. As soon as you're drawing 2 cards and discounting them by 3 4, that's pretty fucking good. And then as soon as you're dealing like 4 damage twice, 4 damage, you're just gonna start clearing stuff, summoning stuff, and drawing stuff, and that's literally all the Demon Hunter wants to do. So I don't see why this card wouldn't be bad. I see relics being not insanely ski bang bang, but I see them being very, very good. So we have Mage next. This is kind of disappointing, isn't it? This Mage secret card. Yeah, this guy, the manager. He's a 4 mana 3/5. After a friendly secret is revealed, cast a different Mage secret and gain +2/+2. So there will be games where this guy solos people for sure. But the thing is, like, you have counterspell, which is probably important for this guy. Like, you try to kill him with like a spell, and then he like counterspells it, then he turns into a 5/7, and then he casts a random secret, and then like, what if it's counterspell again? Or what if it's like Mirror Entity if they try to play a minion? But right now, the Mage secrets, like they made this, but like, I don't know, like, do you really play Secret Mage because of this card? I think in Wild, this card is insane because you're able to play so many secrets. There's so many different kinds. It'll be so hard to play around. I think in Wild, this guy is going to be insane, but I don't think with our current set of secrets, this particular card is going to be that great. I think that, again, if you randomly create this guy and you're playing like a rogue deck or something like that, or like you happen to make this guy in a mage deck and like you happen to get lucky with a secret, you can high roll. But I don't think this guy is actually going to see play when he first comes out. So I think he's going to be bad 95% of the time. He's not a trash can or dumpster fire. He's not terrible. His effect is very, very powerful, but there's not enough support for him in standard right now for him to see enough play that I would place him any higher than that. So taking a look at Priest, we have the Harvester of Envy, 3 mana 4/3. After you play a card copy from the opponent, you steal the original. I think most of the time this card's going to be bad. I think that a Thief-S Priest where you're playing this card and then playing another card, like, it's just too much. You're not, like, while you're taking cards away from the opponent, like, what if they've already played the card? Like, you have to steal a card, and then it still has to be, like, it has to be one in your opponent's hand, which is best case scenario, or still in their deck. And if you're stealing cards from their deck, it doesn't really matter until they have no cards left, right? So even if you steal 10 cards from their left and there's 5 cards left, if they kill you, it's like if they still had 15 cards in their deck. So until your opponent has 0 cards left in their deck and they draw a card, you taking cards doesn't matter whatsoever. Just assume the card that you took was at the bottom of their deck anyway, which is a good way to think about fatigue. So like milling a card doesn't matter until they have no cards left, because just assume the card you milled is at the bottom. So unless it's a combo deck, then it matters. But that's, again, unique situation. So I don't think the card's that good. I think he's too slow, but I do think he'll be bad. He'll be good 5% of the time. I think 5% of the time he'll be 5% of the time he'll be great 100% of the time. And then we have the other Priest legendary, which I think is actually insane. This Pelagos guy. After you cast a spell on a friendly minion, set its attack and health equal to the higher of the 2. So high health, like, he's 3 mana, so very cheap. High health, very hard to deal with, and his effect works for any minion, and you just need to cast a spell on a minion. So it doesn't, you could cast a healing card, you could cast a buffing card, you could cast a divine shield card. It doesn't really matter what card you cast as long as you just cast a spell on a friendly minion, right? So I think that card is going to be tier 1, tier 2. Like, there's no way the Pelagos card isn't good. Like, the card itself, very powerful. Granted, if that card sees play in a Priest deck, we'll have to figure it out. Like this could even weave in Naga Priest. Like straight up, that could easily weave in Naga Priest. So I think that's easily tier 1, tier 2. And I could even see this card, if the buff priest is too good, this could easily get nerfed. I think Pelagos could easily get nerfed if it becomes too overbearing. So I'm definitely going to put him up here. But right now, we just have that one Skeet Ski. Actually, let's just go ahead. We'll just move Print Threnethal up here too. This guy is Skeet Ski Bang Bang. He warped the entire game. Adding 40 cards, there's like viable and very competitive 40 card decks right now. Looking at stuff like Quest Hunter, for example, just recently popped up and it's doing really great. So Prince Renethal and the Sunrider, both very, very standout cards. I think Surgeon Nathrius will be playable. Again, he's very, I don't want to say fringe, but like he's a 10 mana 10 pen. He are like, just because of the stats and the mana cost, or mainly the mana cost, he's not going to be found in the majority of decks. He's really only going to be found at decks that can, first of all, make it to 10 mana, utilize him at 10 mana, and then win past 10 mana. So looking at stuff like Warrior and like Druid, things like that, maybe Priest, just decks that can survive that late game. Like this will never be found in any mid-range or aggressive tile deck, which instantly cuts it down from being like a tier 1, tier 2 deck to just being playable, because it has to fit in a particular deck at a particular time, and it has to be good at that late in the stage. And right now, as we know, like control decks not at the top of their game right now. Like it's mostly these really aggro decks or OTK decks. Like there's been a couple control decks that have popped up that have been decent, but nothing like what we've seen in the past. And then Skeet Bang Bang. This is a new Druid card. This thing is insane. This card is just this. Ooh-wee. Where's that Druid card? Take a look at this. I don't know if you all read this card, the Chia Pet card, but it's a 7 mana 5/5 dragon. I don't know if you know this or not, but druids can get a lot of mana and they can make dragons. They literally can create them with amalgams and shit. So you also, I don't know if you know this, they play what is it, Lady Prester Druid. So Lady Prester Druid, they can make this guy, and they can make multiples of this guy, and they can brand this guy, and then every time they play a nature spell, they get 2 whelps. So the battle cry for the rest of the game, after you cast a nature spell, summon a 3/3 whelp with a rush for the forevers. So anytime they cast a nature spell, druids cast nature spells, and they get 3/3 whelps with rush every single time. And they can play multiple of this card because of Lady Prester Druid. And you can use it with brand. You can play this in, it's a dragon. So now it's in the dragon pool for amalgams. So I'm just saying, this card is going to be nuts. That card is going to be crazy. And 7 mana, that's like turn 2 for a druid. Like they're playing this card like before you even draw your hand, they have the mana to play this. So that card just seems nuts to me. So this is the list. This is where I think we're at. I'm probably wrong on a couple of these, to be honest. For example, maybe like Rafam and like Olgra and maybe like the Living Blade can be pushed down a little bit. But besides that, I think this is pretty fair. I think I've rated these accurately. I think maybe if anything, I'm a little optimistic. Like there's a lot of cards. This is skewed to the higher end. Look at that. This is very skewed to the top end. This would be a perfect bell curve if I like moved 2 to 3 cards over to playable, and then we'd have a pretty good bell curve, and then maybe one more. But there's probably this probably moves down here, this moves down here, and this goes right here, and this right here is pretty belly curvies. But anyway, this is what we got. What are you guys thinking? I'm thinking I'm right, and yeah, I'm excited to play with the new cards. I'll be in the theory crafting stream literally tomorrow. So if you want to see me play with the cards early, head on over to the Twitch, which can be found in the description. And we get to play with all these cards early tomorrow, which should be super exciting. So with that, thanks again for watching, guys. I'm Robert Warshack. Happy whatever the hell day it is.